Hello, hello, welcome to Quackalope, and today we're going to be taking a look at Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done, designed by Seth Jaffe and published by Tasty Minstrel Games. And I do have to say thank you to Tasty Minstrel Games for sending me this copy of Crusaders to open, do an overview of, get to the table with my gaming group, and hopefully do some more content down the road. Now, this copy that we're opening here is the Kickstarter Deluxe version. You can pick up this Kickstarter Deluxe version at any of the conventions where Tasty Minstrel Games is going to be, including Gen Con coming up soon. And you can pick up the retail version of this game at most of your local retailers or online at tastyminstrelgames.com. I will leave a link in the description down below. Now, Crusaders is a game, just like the title implies, where you're scouring the continent of Europe and, pillaging, creating churches, spreading your influence, just gathering power based on the king's orders. This will not be specifically tied to the time period of the Crusades. Instead, it spreads across a much wider time period with the characters that you'll see deployed and utilized. The game uses two unique features in its gameplay. It uses a rondel feature for your action selection or kind of your worker placement sort of mechanic, and then it uses a Mancala feature where you're picking up your deployed influence or your deployed abilities and spreading them around the rondel with every action that you take. So you have to have a little bit of planning, a little bit of forethought into exactly how you're going to build out your chain of command, how you're going to gather the most influence, and end with the king's favor at the end of the game. It is a game for 2 to 4 players, takes about 45 to 60 minutes to play, and is suggested for about 14 years and up. Just like all of my unboxing videos, this will be partially an unboxing video, but also primarily an overview video. I am familiar enough with this game, so as I take components out of the box, I'll be able to tell you what they're used for in the game, and at the end of the video, I'll have a temporary setup or kind of a demonstration of the game, along with B-roll throughout the entirety of this video, letting you see what the table presence is like, what the components look like in close-up detail, and kind of letting you know how they interact with the game state or the gameplay as a whole. Like always, I will go ahead and cut a seam into the side of the box here, and then I will be respectfully quiet. And I do just have to say, I love the map pattern. I love the red, along with kind of the sketchy design on the back. It makes a really nice looking kind of Kickstarter edition. I'm gonna go ahead and open this saran wrap. There we have it. Let's go ahead and slide this box out. So this Kickstarter edition sleeve comes off, and I believe this is the cover that you would see inside of a retail store. It's the one that I've seen. It has a really nice illustration of a knight there with his sword planted in the ground. Let's flip onto the back, see what information we have here. You can see the Tasty Minstrel Games logo down there in the corner, and on the back it says, "Lead an order of knights. Fight enemies, erect buildings, and spread your influence. Will your order be the most influential when King Philip issues arrest orders for the Templars? Manage and upgrade your personal action wheel and navigate the tech tree inherent in the buildings in order to earn the most influence points in this elegant Euro-style strategy game." Let's go ahead and do box liftoff. Common cardboard box. Guess I'll just leave that set up over there. Here on the top, around the sides, we have some advertisement for other Tasty Minstrel games. At the top here, we have the rulebook. I will spend a little bit more time going through and reading this off camera, of course, but it looks like here we have 13 pages, 14 pages, and a little bit of an introduction. So if anyone knows this channel, I like my flavor text. As the Grand Master of a militaristic order in the Middle Ages, you will move your knights across Europe, defeating enemies, erecting buildings, and spreading the influence of your order. As the orders grow in strength, King Philip will become nervous and will eventually convince the Pope to disband the orders, ending the game. The action in Crusaders Thy Will Be Done is driven by your personal action wheel, which you can upgrade over the course of the game. As you move your action tokens around your wheel, your options become more or less potent. Timing your actions and managing your action wheel will be the key to success as you pursue your strategy. So a very nice looking rulebook here, and a note from the designer both in the front and the back of this rulebook here talking about the time period, talking about the theme, talking about some of the horrific events that happened during the Crusades. This game in no way tries to make light of or benefit off of what was a fairly brutal and horrific time period, as much of human history has been. I like the rulebook cover. Let's see, another little advertisement or poster here. Very nice. We have some stickers to place on, I believe, our little wooden token pieces. And here we have our player boards. Now, each of these player boards are going to have an area here where you're actually going to put your action selection mechanic. So each one of these areas are going to have tiles that work in a rondel fashion. As you pick up and take actions, you'll be spreading influence to other action points. Along with that, you're going to have buildings that get placed into these little slots. We have castles and churches, barns, and temples or scientific sites. These buildings will unlock different abilities or different benefits to your actions throughout the course of the game. So while you play, you're going to be spreading your influence, conquering tribes of people, and building or erecting your own monuments in order to kind of path your way to victory. We have some really nice colors here. I like that green, I like that purple, I like this blue, I like this red. I just like all the colors. This game is really, really pretty, beautifully designed. Here we have some punch boards, and I actually really like, so these are nice and thick, and on the top there's a little bit of a gloss on the actual artwork. I really like that each Knight's Order card has this really beautiful artwork. These tiles are incredibly thick. They feel really good in the hand. They're fully illustrated on the front and the back, so you can shuffle them up and deal them out. And they punch out really nicely. Same thing with your army or your little recruits here, which are going to slot into the top portion of your board. These guys, I mean, the quality of this is just absolutely incredible. These middle tiles here are going to be used on the actual game board itself. They kind of mix up or randomize what each region or location can handle. So some regions or locations give you a benefit if you build a church or build a temple. These allow that to be randomized every time you play the game. We also have these tokens. These tokens are going to indicate who scores what victory points at the end of the game. And lastly, these little influence tracks down here at the bottom are actually going to be the elements that build out your rondel. So each of these little triangle pieces are going to slot in here. They have a normal side with a silver trim and a upgraded side with a gold trim. And you can just kind of see, they'll be mixed up, they'll be randomized, they'll slot into these different zones. Everyone playing will have the same randomized sequence, but because of your special abilities on your different Knights' Orders, you'll be able to path your way and map how you play the game around this rondel differently than everyone else at the table. We have a few more of these Knights cards. I will punch all of these out off camera. We have the different colors, because those blue clearly don't go with the orange there. Every tile is really thick. I'm already very impressed with the quality of this game. Here we have the player board. Let's see. We'll go ahead and open this up. Same really thick cardboard here on the player board. I do have to say, this is some of the nicest quality kind of cardboard and stuff. I normally tell people just to go pick up the retail version. This might be one, if you really like this game, you might want to swing by a convention and get your hands on this Kickstarter exclusive copy. Now, the player board is going to be double-sided. You're going to have one side that is for a 2-player game, and you're going to have another side that's for a 3- or 4-player game. It just changes up the tiles, changes up how things are distributed a little bit more. You need more starting zones, and you also need to have more available influence, so the game remains balanced across different player counts. Go ahead and fold this back up. And down here in the bottom, we have bags and bags of little miniatures, meeples, metal coins, some storage bags, and a helpful little pile of baggies. Let's go ahead and set this box over to the side so I can take a look at everything else that I just pulled out. These bags are nice, just kind of canvas. They feel like they're made well. Yeah, they'll hold the components that I need them to. It doesn't seem like they're going to wear out quickly. I do want to dive straight into... Oh, this is cool. So not only do I have all of these really nice influence coins, now these aren't money. These are actually going to be kind of the victory points for the end of the game, but you're going to be collecting them sort of like you'd collect money in other games that use that as kind of a victory point counter. So we have these really nice metal influence trackers. We have a 5, a 1, and a 10. those are going to be awesome on the table. And I believe this is the first player marker, which is a really cool little sword. This thing's sweet. I'm maybe a little too excited about that sword. Next, we're going to have all of our different player buildings. Yeah, and these are our nice little wooden pieces with a little bit of illustration here on the front. The same beautiful colors that I really liked from the player boards here. We have our wooden horses, our wooden houses, our castles, our farms, our influence trackers. So these are going to be the little wooden pieces that get placed here on these. So basically, imagine that this was fully built out. You'd have some influence on each one of these action spots. And let's say I wanted to take this action, which is influence here. I'd take that action, I'd lift these up, and then I'd drop them off just like you would in Mancala, spreading around the board. So if I had, say I had really built up a lot over here on this build action. Same thing, I'd do a build action, I'd pick this up, and I'd spread them around the rest of the board. And then I'd have more power over here to muster or to influence. You kind of see how the flow of the game works, or one of the main mechanics that you'll be playing with. So these are going to be the tokens that you use to control your movement. They're sort of the action selection or the worker placement elements. These here are going to be on the game board itself. These little wooden pieces will be used to indicate different benefits you get from accomplishing goals or collecting different services in different regions. They're just nice little wooden pieces. Same thing here, we have some temples. And the last bits I wanted to take a look at. So these come just with the Kickstarter exclusive version, and they're actually going to be fully realized 3D printed miniatures with some actually really impressive quality for the size that they are. That being said, you may agree with me or not agree with me. Well, I really like these 3D printed components. They look really good. They have a nice amount of quality to them. I'm sure they are perfect for certain people who play this game. I always just prefer wooden chits or meeples. I just really like how kind of more abstract wooden components look when it comes to the game state. That's just my personal bias, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, make sure you double check, but I believe the retail version of this game comes with these wooden components, and the Kickstarter edition comes with the option to have these really nice, like fully realized miniature components. So that's one thing that could kind of sway or weigh your decision, because you're going to have to pick up this game. The question is, which copy do you try to get your hands on? So I'm going to go ahead and punch out all of these components, set up the game board so you have a general sense of what the table presence is going to look like, and then very quickly run you through the mechanics, or at least how some of the gameplay is actually going to work. So far, I can say I am really impressed with the quality of this game, and I'm really excited to get it to the table. Alright guys, so I went through, I punched all the boards, I did a brief, not official, but sort of mock setup on how this game, Crusaders, is actually going to look when it comes to table presence. So you're each going to have your own individual boards that'll be set in front of you. You'll be playing and moving on this main board here, slowly spreading your influence, taking actions to build buildings, conquer different tribes of people, and gain these little tokens, which are kind of the victory points or the final score at the end of the game. These tokens down here, these influence tokens, also work as a sort of timer. So for a two-player game, you're going to have a total value of 140 of these available. I don't quite have that much laid out right now, but as people take these, they'll set them over on their game board, and when these tokens run out, that's when the game ends. That's when the game's over. So you can kind of gauge how you're doing overall based on how much time you have left in the game. Along with that, you can see this board here has been randomized. These little tokens here indicate what sort of buildings you can get a bonus for if you build kind of a chapel or a castle in certain regions of the map. And I set up each player board with the two different component options you have in this deluxe copy of the game. So I have the fully kind of realized 3D model of a horse and a man, and I have the wooden meeple, which is also still really nice. I actually like how both the component options look, and if I have to be honest, I really like how those wooden components look a lot. I'm just biased for really nice quality wood components. But as you play, you're going to be spreading and moving across this area using these little rotundas to gauge whether or not you can attack a tribe of people, whether or not you can move into a zone and build a church or a chapel based on how many actions or how many resources you have dedicated to that space and what it costs or what it takes to actually build in the zone that you're in. Over here on your player boards, you can see that we have everything has its own little home. All of these little farm buildings, these temples, these churches, they'll slowly be spread onto the game board itself. And as you spread them, as you reveal different elements, you'll get things like an additional horse, so an additional kind of worker or person to place on the board. You'll gain influence tokens based on the different locations that you've built in. You'll open up different abilities or benefits for every action you take going forward in the game. Now, like I said earlier, everyone's going to have their own Templar orders or their own Knights orders. These are going to be the cards that are slotted into the very top of your player board here. They are a little bit asymmetric, right? So they add a specific ability or component to your game board along with some sort of special effect or special impact. So it's going to change the way you play and probably lead or dictate the way that you move throughout the game. You really want to play to your Knight's orders as much as possible so that you can maximize and sort of get to the end of the game with as many points as possible. The way the turns are actually going to work, which I demonstrated slightly earlier, is you're going to have these influence tokens, or you're going to have these little tokens on each one of these areas in your rotunda. When I take an action, such as here's a crusade action, so I could move into a zone and wage war with the local tribes there, I'm then going to use a Mancala method of placement. So I have 3 action tokens here that I use to crusade. I'll then place those one at a time kind of around the board, unless I have a special ability that allows me to adjust or manipulate the way that I place those influence tokens or those resources down. Across the top here, you're going to have knights that you're going to unlock. These are going to add strength and power to your overall force. So as you get deeper into this map, as you get farther into Europe, you're going to have the ability to conquer more people, build in more regions, and just spread your influence as much as possible. So all in all, that's the kind of layout, the overview of Crusaders. Once again, I want to thank Tasty Minstrel Games for sending me this copy and allowing me to let you all see all of these beautiful components. My final thoughts, my kind of final impressions of this game, it's really, really nice. I mean, the quality of the components, the thickness of the cardboard, the gloss that they've placed over certain areas, just make this a really, really beautiful game. Along with that, it's not hard to get to the table, and at around a 60-minute playtime, it's not even that intimidating of a Euro-style game, and it still has enough kind of depth and strategy for me and my gaming group to enjoy it. Whatever the case, I hope you've enjoyed this overview video. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. I put out new videos every single week, and I'd love for you to kind of be a part of the community here. Whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.